Senator Vance, good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
J.D. Vance went on CNN for an interview that was interesting to say the least. Vance made multiple lies, and Jake Tapper did not do a very good job calling him out on them. Let's take a look and discuss.
Let me ask you, obviously, Trump's former Chief of Staff, General John Kelly,
Sure.
was alarmed, he says, by what he heard when Trump said he wanted to use the National Guard or the Pentagon to go after the enemy within, Americans with whom he disagrees, including the Pelosi's, Adam Schiff. And then he gave an interview. He said that Trump, quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, that he is, quote, certainly an authoritarian, admires people who are dictators. You've called him a disgruntled former employee. But why shouldn't Americans out there listen to somebody who worked closely with Trump, worked with him longer than you've worked with him, retired four-star Marine general, served his country honorably, who is conservative, who says he agrees with Trump on most policies, but is worried about this aspect of Trump?
So let me say two things in response. So first of all, a lot of what John Kelly, pretty much all of what John Kelly accuses Donald Trump of saying, there were other people in the room, Mike Pence's former chief of staff, for example, who've explicitly said Donald Trump never said those things, right? So one, on
Mike
the
Pence, the
specific
guy
comments,
who's not going to support Trump because
Mike Pence's former chief of staff said that Donald Trump didn't say those things, right? So that's number one.
Nick Ayers was Mike Pence's chief of staff for the first year of the Trump administration. He left in 2018 and said, Trump never said those types of things. He was not claiming to be in the room when Kelly made his claim about Trump. Vance is being extremely disingenuous.
Number two, I actually think there's an interesting conversation here to have, Jake, which is why does John Kelly not support Donald Trump? It's about policy. It's actually not about personality.
He says he agrees with Trump on most policy.
No.
He agrees with Trump on most policy. He disagrees with Trump on how Trump views his role and his and the fascism and the authoritarianism.
I don't buy that, Jake. I don't buy that, because if you actually look at John Kelly, at folks like Liz Cheney, the fundamental disagreement they have with Donald Trump is, even though they say that they're conservative in the sense that they want America to get involved in a ton of ridiculous military conflicts. They want America to police the world, and Donald Trump wasn't.
There were over 2,200 drone strikes conducted during Trump's first 2 years in office, compared to 1,800 in all of Obama's 8 years. During the Trump administration, bombs were dropped in Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Somalia, Pakistan, and Libya.
And I know the people who have attacked Donald Trump the most vociferously on foreign policy, they'll say, well, he's a dictator, when what they really mean is they won't listen. Donald Trump wouldn't listen to the leadership of the military when they wanted him to start ridiculous conflict. I think that there's a big thing going on in American politics. It's a very interesting theme in American foreign policy, where a lot of former members of the Pentagon bureaucracy, a lot of old neoconservatives, they have a fundamental difference with Donald Trump on the question of peace and war.
Trump suggested nuking hurricanes, expanding drone strikes, considered arming surveillance drones in Niger and Mali, proposed offensive ground combat operations in North Africa, and increased troop presence in the Middle East by 33%.
You said the other day, quote, I guarantee John Kelly talked to somebody on Kamala Harris's campaign beforehand, before he did this interview. Now, I've spoken with people in John Kelly's circle, and I've spoken with people in the Kamala Harris campaign. They say there's been no communication the entire time. So where did that come from?
Oh, I'm highly skeptical of that, Jake. You know the way that these attacks work. You know the way that these people are often vetted by a campaign.
So you made it up
before something goes out there. No, I said that the American media and the American Democratic Party apparatus works a certain way. If it comes out that John Kelly never even spoke with a person in the Kamala Harris orbit, then I'm happy. You're telling me that based on secondhand conversations with John Kelly. And it's interesting. We've now spent, Jake, 3 minutes talking about John Kelly. If it is true that he never spoke with anyone in Kamala Harris's orbit, I'm happy to apologize to John Kelly for misstating how he delivered this news to the Atlantic magazine.
Vance is known for saying things without any proof. For example, migrants are eating cats and dogs. He also previously said things like, I'm not a Trump guy. Trump is a cynical asshole. Trump makes people I care about afraid, and a total fraud.
But let's talk about who did he deliver this news to? To Jeffrey Goldberg, a guy who lied the United States into the Iraq War, which led to the deaths of millions of innocent Arabs and thousands of innocent Americans. You don't go to that guy if you don't have a particular ideological motive. I think that's what's going on. If I'm wrong, I'm happy to say that I'm wrong.
I think it's interesting that you think that a magazine writer lied the American people into war.
Well, he encouraged it. He wrote stories that were dishonest. This is a guy who wants to use American troops sparingly. He wants peace through strength. It's why his foreign policy was so successful during his first term. It's all the same people who were wrong about Iraq. They were wrong about the quagmire in Afghanistan. They were wrong about Syria. They were wrong about everything. And now they're coming after Donald Trump because he actually has a realistic and cautious foreign policy.
The Trump administration was filled with people who love war and supported the Iraq War. For example, John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, James Mattis, Stephen Miller, Robert O'Brien, David Wurmser, Elliot Abrams. This list could go on forever. If Trump was such a peace guy, why did he fill his administration with war hawks?
Kamala Harris protects failures in government. Donald Trump fires them. And I'd much rather have the president who fires people who screw up. Now, Jake, no, this is an important point. Kamala Harris.
You did not fire Mike Pence.
Kamala Harris.
He did not fire
is the president.
Mark Milley.
Kamala Harris.
He did not fire John.
He fired a lot of those people, Jake, and he did because they weren't doing their job.
Don't forget when Trump said this.
Track record, great competence, love of what they're doing, how they're getting along with people, references. I mean, no different than when you're running a company, how you hire top people. We have to get the best people. We need to get the best and the finest, and if we don't, we'll be in trouble for a long period of time.
I know the best managers. I know the best deal makers. I know people that will make us so strong. I know guys that are so good.
If Trump knows so many of the best people, why did he have to fire so many?
And
Donald Trump says...
And you'd much rather talk about what Donald Trump allegedly said than what Donald Trump did in office.
I'm talking about
what he did in office, Jake,
what he said publicly.
1.5%
he wants to use
inflation.
The military to go after the enemy within, which is the American people.
He did not say that, Jake.
The enemy
he
within?
said that he was going to send the military after the American people. Show me the quote where he said
he was going to. He said the enemy within.
He said far left lunatics. He's talking about
the
people
Pelosi's
rioting
and Schiff.
He's talking about people rioting after the election. I think
the Pelosi's were rioting after the election.
He said
Adam Schiff was rioting after the election.
You're using two separate phrases. He said about using the military that far left lunatics, people who riot in the wake of an election, people who burn down American cities in the summer of 2020, yes, we should have a federal law enforcement
This is what
response.
he said to Joe Rogan on Friday. The enemy within that he wants the military to go after.
No, this is
the enemy within a bigger problem than Kim Jong-un.
The second part.
We have people that are really bad people that I really think want to make this country unsuccessful. That's who the enemy within.
And did he say that he wants to use the military against those people? Here's the game.
Use the military to go after the enemy within.
Here's the game that you're playing. He said
I'm not playing a game.
No. Can I answer the question, please? He said that he wanted to use the military to go after far left lunatics who are rioting, and he also called them the enemy within.
Vance is doing what he does best and being extremely disingenuous. Trump has not been talking about extreme radicals. If you actually listen to what Trump is saying, he's calling his political opponents enemies from within, specifically Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi. If you like this type of content and want to see more, please subscribe or become a member. Thank you.